Hi, I'm Dr. Carlton.
And I'm Dr. Leo.
And we're here from Jacked and Scrub to respond to some online comments and debunk some myths and misconceptions about queer sex.
So our first comment is, swallowing is safer than regular sex. I only give BJs or blowjobs to avoid STDs.
Well, there's some pluses and minuses there. I think it depends on if you're talking about condomless sex or sex with condoms. Oral sex definitely has decreased risk for some STIs, but not all. So just because you give a blowjob doesn't necessarily mean you're going to escape things like gonorrhea, chlamydia, or syphilis.
Keep in mind that even when there's a condom on the shaft of the penis, that the mouth can still be, exposed to the balls. It can be exposed to other, parts of the genital area that, may have, that may have lesions on them. And so, a person could get herpes, they could get warts, etc., from having that skin brush up against that genital area skin.
Next comment, anal sex leads to fecal incontinence. If you bottom too much, you'll be wearing diapers in your 60s.
So that is simply not true. I think it's really important to debunk that myth. People, are still bottoming in their 60s and beyond and don't have fecal incontinence. I think the most important thing to do is ensure that you are lubing up properly, that you're relaxing in order to not have tears that increase the risk of incontinence. But otherwise, this is totally false. Anything you want to
I'm 50 and I can break a pencil in half.
We need a pencil. Bottoms can't eat and must starve themselves. I stopped bottoming because a girl likes to eat, and going 24 hours without eating beforehand was too much for me.
I get that comment all the time, and that's one of the things that I really want people to understand is you don't have to starve yourself to be a bottom. There are people who literally develop eating disorders over bottoming. You see those jokes where people only eat ice for breakfast, lunch, and dinner. That's not necessary. Your gastrocolic reflex is a natural reflex that your body has where when you eat about 30 minutes into it, you send a chemical signal to your rectum to empty. So as long as you're not eating within like an hour or two of sex, you're fine.
But Dr. Carlton, I have to ask because I think that the people out there will want to know, are there certain foods that they should maybe avoid within
That's a great
2
point.
hours?
Absolutely, that's a great point. Now, you should know your triggers. If dairy is a bad thing for you, stay away from dairy that day or on days you're going to play. Everybody knows their triggers, and not everybody's GI tract is the same. Some people with irritable bowel syndrome may have issues that where they do have to fast a little longer than others. So while that 30-minute guideline or 1 hour guideline is a general rule, there are exceptions to it. A urine test is enough to check for your STIs. All you have to do is pee in a cup.
So important that we tell everyone to check where you play. Get checked where you play. So if you're having oral sex, get swabbed in the mouth. If you're having anal sex, get swabbed in the butt. If you're using your penis for sex, pee in a cup. All of those things need to be done, and including getting your blood drawn so that you can be tested for syphilis as well. So it is not as simple as just peeing in a cup. It is still pretty simple, but not that simple. So definitely important to get checked where you play.
I've had people come to me as a GI specialist for chronic inflammatory bowel disease with these horrifically high-dosed medications to immunosuppress them to fight their ulcerative proctitis, which is basically an inflammation of the rectum. And it wasn't working. Well, I swabbed them for gonorrhea and it was positive, and they were able to come off all the medications. Their doctor just misdiagnosed them. So make sure that you get checked where you play.
Having sex with an HIV positive person will give you HIV. Even if a person is undetectable, it's still risky, says this person.
I get that battle a lot online. I tell you, I have so many people that think that an HIV positive person, just because they're positive, can spread the virus through sex, even if they're undetectable, and that is flat wrong. If a person is undetectable and reliably undetectable on medications, then they cannot transmit the virus through sex.
The other thing that I want to add here, though, is that it is a person's personal responsibility to ensure that they're protecting themselves. If they are concerned about HIV, there's PrEP, right? There are
Absolutely.
condoms. There are other options for them to protect themselves. But the villainizing of people who are living with HIV has to stop.
Absolutely, I totally agree. And I think a lot of times people who are HIV positive positive know more about their own sexual health than any random person that you might meet who says they're negative but has no idea because they really didn't test.
I mean, how many times have we heard, oh, I'm disease and drug free? But we really know that because someone says it? You should never assume. You should always be protecting yourself.
Right, and let's drop the clean thing.
Agreed.
There's a movement out called U equals U, undetectable equals untransmittable. And that's basically what we're saying here, was when a person is undetectable for HIV, they cannot pass the virus through sex, so therefore they're untransmittable.
And really important for us to say that this movement is driven by science. It is driven by data that shows that if a person is undetectable, they are not able to pass that virus on to others. That the data shows that it is in fact, it's not just something that's like this splashy campaign that people are putting out, you know, and it really helps protect the person who's living with HIV from progressing to AIDS, helps that person to live as long as a person who is not living with HIV, and it protects their partners, you know, so it's a win-win and it's based in science.
Absolutely.
Undetectable equals untransmittable.
Great.